Our guest for today's podcast is an absolute dog. Born and bred in San Diego County's Poway, California, where she dominated the high school landscape and became a McDonald's All-American. She would make the intentional decision to join the University of Washington Huskies, looking to leave a positive impact on the program as well as a lasting legacy. During her time in Seattle, she would take the Huskies to the 2016 Final Four, become the Pac-12's all-time leading scorer, and would further cement her place in history by becoming the NCAA's all-time leading scorer in women's basketball. All the work and passion led her to being selected first overall at the 2017 WNBA draft by the San Antonio Stars. Since then, she has answered every call of adversity with a new level of tenacity, making herself and everyone around her better. In her young career, she's accomplished a handful. To name a few, she's been the W6 Player of the Year, All-Star Game MVP, and a champion with the Las Vegas Aces. Additionally, she's brought home several gold medals for Team USA. Please welcome to the show, Kelsey Plum.
What's up, man? What an intro. Okay, let's do it.
You like it? You like it? Good, I'm glad.
Hell of an intro, hell of a person. I mean, I feel like Kelsey Plum, your name is everywhere right now. I mean, that's one of the crazier intros I've heard. You're doing amazing things. And I think, we talked about it offline. I'm obviously excited to have you on this episode, have you on the pod. Everything when I created Run Your Own Race, when I decided to make a show, make a podcast to highlight and tell people's stories, your name came first to mind because I think you embody everything that it means to run your own race. From being a number one pick to your injury, everything in between that, and then your resurgence with vengeance since coming back has been sick. And like I said, our goal on this podcast is simple. It's to motivate and inspire, the next generation of hoopers, whether that's boys, girls. And I think, you've been a vocal person through your ups and downs. So I'm excited to have you on. I appreciate you. Let's dive into it.
Let's get it.
I guess we'll start back. I mean, it's pretty simple. Obviously, we talk about where you're from down in San Diego. You obviously, left home to go to Washington, but let's talk about that home life. I think nature versus nurture. I'm one of those kind of people that's like, you're a product of your environment, but also, it's how you're nurtured as well. So talk about your family, talk about their role, their impact, and just kind of growing up down there.
Man, I had such a great childhood. I'm 3 of 4. And my parents, they were both college athletes. And everyone in my family played Division I sports. So you can imagine the amount of competitive juices flowing in the family. And it didn't just stop on, the court or the field or whatever anyone was playing. It was at the dinner table, doing the dishes, getting in the car. My dad used to start driving. And if you didn't make it to the car, you were going to get left. You better have some wheels, you know what I mean? But no, I'm super grateful. It was very, supportive household. Like people, were workers. And I think that I got my work ethic from, my parents. They instilled in me from a young age, like if you want something, you got to put your mind to it and you got to go get it. No one's going to hand it to you. Even from a young age, I remember my dad, I know it sounds dumb, but he would take food and put it in front in the high chair. This is in the high chair. And just put it, how you feed the baby?
Yeah.
Just set it down. He'd be like, if you're hungry, go pick it up. And you just got to learn, you just got to learn. And I always thought, some of it was extreme, but as an adult, I look back and I'm like, they were just building a different type of competitor. And then I think one of the other things my parents instilled into me, which has really helped me a lot in life is, we don't quit anything, as a Plum, that's something that is like a staple value. I'm sure the way you were raised, there are certain staple values that were brought to you. And, there's a lot of times throughout seasons, it doesn't matter what I was doing, whether I was playing the clarinet or playing soccer, maybe I didn't like it. My parents were like, listen, you don't have to continue to do it, but you're going to finish the season and then we'll decide from there. And I mean, as well as half the time you get to the end and you're like, all right, that wasn't that bad. Maybe I want to do it again. So I just think being able to finish things was super important.
No, I feel you. I know your mom and you had 2 sisters that play volleyball. So like you talk about playing clarinet, soccer, maybe volleyball. I don't know. Obviously,
yeah.
how did you transition, or where did you fall in love with basketball? How did that become your thing? And was there ever just like from your parents, like, yo, do this because we love this, or did they just go all in on basketball when you said that's what you wanted to do?
Yeah, like you said, I came from a volleyball family, and I was really good at volleyball, but I just didn't like it. Not in the same way. And my dad, he would used to bring me to the gym. We play pickup. And so I kind of fell in love with it then as like, I don't know, maybe I was like 10. And from there, I just was like, I told my mom, I'm like, listen, I'm going to play in the WNBA. I just want to let you know. And I think I was like 10. And she was like, oh, okay. But they were super supportive, like all in on whatever I wanted to do, which is really cool because they definitely could have been a little bit more like, hey, let's pick a more realistic goal. But there was never a plan B. Everyone was in on what I was doing. And I look back now and it's kind of crazy to think like I really fully believe like I was going to the league. Couldn't tell me differently. But now as an adult, I'm like, wow, that was pretty ballsy.
Right. No, I think, and Malai, chime in if you feel the need. But we had another pod, and someone said kind of something similar. And I don't want to gloss over anything we're talking about. Like, I want to really get to the roots, right? This is what it's about, because all these cliches, like no plan B, all these cliches of, oh, I said I was going to be in the WNBA. Like, there's some real power to that. And so I really want to tap in, especially with you, to like that mindset and that drive. Malai, you opened up saying like, here's a dog, what I'm saying, from Southern California. So like, let's really dive into that. What I'm saying? Like you said, at the age of 10,
yeah,
you told your mom, I'm going to play in the WNBA. Like, did you full-heartedly mean that? Was it something you're like, oh, I'd like to play in the WNBA? Or were you like really, really specific?
No, I walked up and I said, I just want to let you know I'm going to play in the WNBA.
At 10?
At 10. I just was like, yeah, like either get on board or don't. But this is what I'm going to be doing. And I mean, from that moment, like it's actually like hilarious. Like I was out in the backyard charting my free throws, running around the block. My mom was like, hey, like if you want to do something, make sure you call the coach. So I would like call the coach, try out for the team, print out the map quest, the map
quest back in the day.
Had to print it out, hand it to them. Hey, we're leaving at 7 a.m. We got to be there at 8. Like, and yeah, I just feel like I was very intentional about how I went about it because I knew for me physically, I was not going to impose my will on what I was doing. So I was going to have to be the most competitive, the most skilled, and just the toughest. Like those were going to be things that you knew, like I was just going to be better than whoever I played. And so I just tried to make sure like every year I got better. And by the way, when I started out, like I try to tell kids now, I came off the bench in high school. Like I wasn't like a phenom, you know what I mean? Like I ended up becoming better later, but like I came off the bench in all my club teams until I was like, I don't know, maybe in 8th grade. And then I got to high school, I came off the bench. And I just was like, I'm going to keep getting better. And I think like we've all seen it. We play with a kid and they're the number 1 player in 7th grade. And then by the time we get to 9th grade, they ain't grown and they haven't gotten any better. And I just knew, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to keep chipping away. Like, and like you said, run your own race. That resonates with me because I was just going to keep running my own race. And I knew that it was a matter of time before I broke through each, kind of threshold.
Yeah. So I guess one question we always want to know, like, what's the root cause of things, right? So, as a kid, what made you want to like document all your workouts? As a kid, what made you like want to get up as early as you did? Probably at a time that no 10-year-old has a business getting up at, right? What made you want to keep doing that, even though nobody was like, hey, this is what you got to do, but it's something that you wanted to do?
I mean, I had, I think, an example. Like I remember watching my dad. Like he had a routine. He would get up, he would go to the gym, he would get on the bike, he would lift weights, then he would go play. And this was to go play pickup. Like, this isn't like not training for anything, you know? And he was just someone that wanted to be really good at what he was doing in that moment. And so I think as a kid, like, I was able to watch my sisters who were phenomenal college volleyball players. And then my older sister played pro. Same thing. They would get up in the mornings. They would do strength and conditioning. They would go to school. They would have practice after. Like, it was just something that was very normal in terms of, like, if you want to be good, this is what you do. So fortunately, I had like a blueprint going in of how to make yourself a better athlete. And, you know, I was very privileged to be able to have that in front of me. So it wasn't like I learned a lot of it on my own. I just copied my siblings and my dad.
How would you handle days as a kid? Because as an adult, you just know that you have to do things, right? But as a kid, how would you handle days where you just like didn't want to get up, or your body didn't feel great, or you just didn't feel great?
Yeah, I would change that mentality and say, I don't have to get up. I get to get up. Like, it is
at 10?
Come on.
Yeah, like, it is a blessing. Like, man, I get to go hoop today. Are you kidding me? Like, and like, fortunately, again, my parents, I think, were huge. Like, I remember we take a lot of mission trips down to Mexico. I took mission trips to Haiti. So I saw kids my age that would walk on dirt, that didn't know when their next meal was, that were trying to find, you know, running water. So, like, are you kidding me? I get to get up and go train. Like, that's a privilege. And I think that's something that we miss out on, especially like a newer generation. And I don't think it's necessarily their fault. I think it's who's teaching us in terms of, like, you know, having that gratitude instilled in you. Like, hey, this is like, not everyone gets to do this. So when you do it, make the most of it. Yeah, that was instilled at a very early age. And by the way, like, if you're going to complain, don't be here. Like, no one needs you to be here. So yeah, it was either you're going to be all in or you're not going to do it.
No, that's so tough. And yeah, I think, like, you're right. Like, you basically what you said is you saw the example set before you and you fell in line. You're like, if I love basketball, which you clearly stated, and you had a goal, a vision, like, this is what's going to happen, you had the people in front of you to say, okay, this is what you do, right? And I just think it's crazy, though, at 10, 11, whatever it is, like the charting, like the writing things down. And I think, you know, we can pull the clip up, and it's obviously a viral sensation now, you know, your little notepad and the notes that you wrote a couple months ago and everything that's come true. And we'll tap into that part a little later, because, like, I really resonated with that. But as a kid, like, I have a younger brother. He's going to be a sophomore this year. Really talented, kind of what you said. He's not ranked at this time, but neither was I. And it's like, I was counted out over and over again. Like, I wasn't recruited by the big schools. My brother's not recruited by the big schools, but I saw the kids who didn't care. And it was like, I was the kind of person that wrote down McDonald's All-American. And I was a McDonald's All-American nominee, never the All-American, but it's like, I'm going to be in the NBA. And I go to Princeton. And it's like, people who go to Princeton don't go to the NBA. It's like, no, I'm going to the NBA. And like that. Right. So at a young age, like, doing that, I think, just like to your point, it's having that example in front of you. So that's super dope to know and to see. And to anyone out there listening, whether you're a parent, a friend, a coach, it's like your actions speak so much louder than anything that you can tell someone. Like, set that example, be that example, and watch, you know, those roots that you're laying manifest in other people's lives. So that's super powerful.
Amen. I got the chills when you said that.
Me too.
Yeah. So, I mean, you know, Devin, I think we should probably take some time to kind of talk about faith at this point, because it's been brought up, mission trips, amen right now, you know. Kelsey, kind of give us a little
hallelujah.
Yeah. So if you can, Kelsey, give us like if you feel comfortable with sharing, like, give us a little bit of an idea of like how faith plays a role in your day-to-day life now.
You know, I think I haven't always been this way. I feel like, you know, I definitely grew up in, you know, a Christian home. We had a lot of like fundamental values, and my parents, you know, we went to church every Sunday, Bible study, all that stuff. But I feel like I didn't make it my own until probably after I tore my Achilles. And I didn't realize that my value was in everything else but really God. And I think that mindset shift and, you know, working on my relationship with God and understanding that, you know, my performance doesn't, you know, devalue or exceed my value as a person outside of basketball. So I think that I definitely had to really like relearn, you know, God's love and my relationship with God. And, you know, it's an everyday thing. Like anything in life, if you want to be good at something or you want something to be an impact in your life, you have to make it a consistent thing. And so, you know, every day I, you know, read my devotional, I pray. And I started doing this thing. My therapist taught me, I write down 10 things every day that I'm grateful for, to start my day. And I've really seen like the quality of my day change drastically when I start my day like that. Cause I feel like a lot of times, you know, you create that lens. It's like you turn it on for, you know, how it's like, do I have to wake up or am I getting to wake up, you know? And so I think those little mindset shifts are actually what moves the needle and what has moved the needle for me and really just made my quality of life better. I feel like I'm a better human. I'm a better partner. I'm a better teammate, friend, daughter because of all of it.
That's big time. I think, and again, you're hitting on some really key things. And like, again, you talk about getting chills. Like I've, you know, had to go through therapy at a time in my life when I lost my sense of identity because it was so wrapped up in basketball. And when things weren't going great, I wasn't going great. Like I had to be successful on the court to be successful off. So like, this is a really important, you know, topic that you bring up. So when you say, you know, you said at 10 or 11, you know, when things weren't going great, you're like, I get to wake up or I get to, you know, be playing basketball. I don't have to. And then you obviously are doing this again now at maybe a higher level. You're more consistent. So if there was like a fall off in that mentality, if there was ever a time where you were low, which this is your journey of faith isn't linear. It's going to be all over the place, right? So like, name a time. You talked about the injury, but was there a time before that when you kind of lost sense? Maybe because you were at a time where you were super successful, you know, when you're kind of like, I'm untouchable. Like, was it ever that time? And if so, like, talk through like that moment, if there ever was.
Oh, for sure. I remember in college after we went to the Final Four, coming back and having like these panic attacks. I remember I was passing out, like running on the treadmill, passing out. I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, I felt like a dark cloud over me. And finally I was diagnosed with like severe anxiety and depression. And I, at this point, was just zero relationship with God, absolutely feeling like completely burnt out, not in love with basketball, like just very like self-loathing, victim mentality. I played my whole senior year like that. I played my whole like that. I got drafted. Me being drafted was probably one of the lowest points in my life, because it should be this like magnificent day, right? You've been working for this. You know, I said I was 10. I want to be in the league. Here I am. Mm-hmm. And everything I had worked for in that moment, I got it, and it wasn't fulfilling. It wasn't what I thought it was going to be. And it was like, man, I put my whole life into this, and here I am. And it's just, it means absolutely nothing. Like I feel so fulfilled. And it took me, I mean, Devin, I was probably suicidal, depression, anxiety from 2016 to 2019, almost 2020, like in the depths. And like I said, my faith was just in the toilet. I'm asking God, like, why, like, what's going on? Like, what do I do to deserve this? Like, and so I think tearing my Achilles, I've told people this before, like that was the best thing to ever happen to me, because it finally gave me a chance to like completely reset spiritually what was going on inside.
That's just deep.
Yeah.
And that's real. I mean, people don't open up about that, you know, like this is like, first off, thank you, you know, for sharing that. No, we like, that shit is not light, you know? So like, I don't want to bring up more bad times, dark times, you know, like, again, there's like, you're at a time right now, like if anyone's thinking of your name or they're hearing about you, it's like, yo, she's fucking awesome. She's successful. She's got all these things going for her. GQ, freaking fire clothes, like everything. Like they see you on social media And that's a time that we're in right now is you can post something, you can tweet something that can be completely off base, but you can make the presentation look as if shit's sweet. 2016, 17, 18, 19, I'm sure people probably still thought the same thing. KP just broke the record in college. KP, #1 pick. You know, whatever, you know, you're in the W, wherever you're at in your journey, like people who don't know, and that could probably be family, friends, teammates, probably wouldn't know. You're at this low point because things look good, right? Or feel good. So like just kind of touch on that, because I feel like I may be wrong, but I feel like at the time that we're in, there's probably a lot of people who are presenting something that's positive or that's something that's not true, false, and going through something. So I think your testimony, your story right now, specifically, like, you know, when things are going good, you can talk probably with more, you know, light on the dark time. So you're in are you in San Antonio? Did you ever play in San Antonio actually, or was that automatically in Vegas that first year?
Yeah, my first year was in San Antonio.
Like talk through that. Your 10-year-old self, right? If you were talking to your 10-year-old self, the girl who's like, look, mom, I'm in the W. Like, I don't care what you're saying. Like, I'm there. Now you're there and you're saying you're at your lowest. Like talk through those days. Like talk through, like, would you fake it till you made it? Like you lost your faith. How do you find something like that? How do you go through that? You said it's partially suicidal. Like that's not something to like mess around with. So just like talk through that experience a little more and just like from your perspective.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing was like you said, like I didn't tell anybody. Nobody knew that I was like in the hole bad. Because I think from going into my senior year, I mean, like, arguably, I probably had one of the best senior years in the history of college basketball.
Period.
Yeah, like I scored 1,000 points in one season on 55% from the field. Like it wasn't, you know, I wasn't jacking. And so it was like one of those things where everyone's like, wow, like this is amazing. Like you're doing all these things. And then inside it was just like the better I played, the worse I felt. And that, you know, obviously went to me being in San Antonio. And, you know, the WNBA is a different sport. And so going from college to pro, you know, having so much attention, expectations, pressure, you know, I did not translate well. I did not translate well at all. And people are coming at my neck. I mean, here's this 5 girl getting all this love, you know, people hate me. They don't even know why they hate me, you know, and the league's promoting me and all this stuff. And people are just like, nah. I remember people were trying to ISO me in the middle of games, like breaking the play, just trying to ISO me. And it was just so hard. It was so hard. And the worst part was I wasn't telling anyone. I was just keeping it all inside. And every night I would sit on the balcony of my parking structure. I was on the 7th floor. And I would have my feet dangle, and I would just like, maybe tonight's the night. Like maybe this isn't it. Like I don't know how worse it could get for me. And I think that, like you said, it really was just like, all right, I'm just gonna get through one more day. Like I'm not a quitter. Like we talked about that before. Like my parents are gonna be pissed if I jump off this thing.
No, that's real.
You know, and so I'm like, you know what? All of this work to get to this point, I'm not going to let this break me. I don't care if I go out, but I'm going to go out swinging. Like I'm not going to fall to this. And I just had to put one foot in front of the other and just keep chipping away. And it was like, I mean, listen, I got drafted in 2017. I didn't make a dent into the league until playoffs of 2019.
Yeah.
You know, that's years. And that's the other thing. I think a lot of times we want instant results. That ain't coming, dog. I mean, look at your journey. Like it takes years. It takes years of failing and failing and failing to like keep learning and growing and pushing to finally chip away and get where you want to get. But like, we don't just walk in and arrive. Like it's just not reality. And so I would just say that if anyone's watching this, and you feel like you're connecting with what I'm saying right now, is like, don't give up. If you love it and you believe in what you're doing, stay with it. Like, don't let it take you. Stay with it, keep pushing, and eventually you're going to break through.
That's facts. I want to You like a fucking round of applause. Like that's it. That's everything. I mean, it's so much bigger than a sport. It's so much bigger than a job, a situation, being in debt, you know, not having the funds to make ends meet, you know, put food on the table. Like, you know, let's go get a loaf of bread and make this shit work, you know? And that's very powerful. I really, really appreciate you sharing.
I think to bring it a little bit, to kind of like stay on the same topic, but kind of bring it back. I think one time you were quoted as saying, you know, it rained like 60 consecutive days in Seattle, right? And this is like a lighter note, right? But it also kind of attributes to the experience in college that like people don't know about, right? Like the better you played, the worse you felt. Seattle, there's barely any sunshine, right? Seasonal depression is a real thing.
Jeez.
What was like the actual like impact on your mental health that entire college experience had? You know, I think you were named freshman captain. You called that social suicide. It's raining. It's not a great experience. I think you even considered transferring. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you know, what was that entire experience like? You know, people glorify it, but nobody actually talks about what really happened.
Oh man, it was brutal. You know, my freshman year, I got there. They named me a captain the first day I stepped on campus.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah. And I trust, it's not like I asked for that. They said, listen, we're trying to change the culture. We think you're the person to do it. And people aren't going to like it, but it doesn't matter. Like we haven't been good. We haven't been in the tournament in 8 years, and we're going to change the culture, and we're setting the tone from the jump. And I remember hearing this and being like, oh, I'm screwed. Like, imagine right now, like a rookie walks onto your team and they named him a captain.
Hasn't played a single game.
What? Not been playing a game, haven't had one practice.
Doesn't know where the bathroom is in the facility.
Doesn't know where class is, doesn't know the code to the locker room, doesn't know anything. Yeah. And that didn't help my start. And then, of course, it's raining every single day. I'm from San Diego, like beautiful sunshine, San Diego. Yeah, and it was tough, man. Like people didn't like me. I don't think I helped myself either. I think that I was too competitive for my own good, and I didn't know how to talk to people. I think that I, was very selfish, not necessarily on purpose, but I wanted to win so bad I would try to do it by myself. And I feel like it took till probably my junior year to like have a grip on like leadership, and people wanted to follow, and we were, more in sync as a team. And yeah, I thought about transferring many times. Back then you had to sit out.
Yeah, not like today. No NFL.
That saved me, because I was like, hey, I'm not sitting out. Like, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to suck it up. And I also too, like, again, I think it goes back to quitting, but I'm like, I made a commitment.
Yeah.
I made a commitment to be here. I prayed for God to direct my steps. He put me at UW, and I'm going to leave because it's not going good. Like, fix it. Like, and so I think that having that mentality, and like my parents were like, hey, like, there's good times and bad times, but you got to stay with it. And so I feel like it was like kind of a similar thing of just, it can't be bad the whole time. We're going to chip away. But yeah, I would encourage a lot of kids that, look at maybe transferring high school or transferring college. Each situation is different. Don't get me wrong. But I will say that whatever problems that you have at your current school, they're not going away when you move. They're going to be there. And so I ask yourself really, what's the biggest issue? And is it something that I can control? And so I think if it's not something that you can control, well, then maybe you look to move. But a lot of the problems, I was the problem. And so I had to grow in my character and fix it. And then it's amazing that, like, when you work on yourself and you worry about, how you can make other people better, some of those problems just kind of go away.
There's a saying that goes, you actually have like the same conversations with different people over and over again, right? So it's like all about the way you communicate with someone else and how that like either contributes to a problem or how it helps resolve a problem. So yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate you sharing that. I think there's a lot about that experience that nobody And there's so much more that people don't know about. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Absolutely. Thanks for asking.
Definitely.
Obviously, you know, I've been up and down, G League, I've been here. One of my compadres, Markelle Fultz, fellow #1 pick. Did you have 1 year of, was it your senior year when he was a freshman?
Yes.
So talk about if you have any stories, any Markelle stories. Like, you both were #1 picks, like at UW, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's first off, like, historic in itself, but like, he's a special player, a special person. You talk about faith, family, resilience, like he has all these things. And I love sharing the court with him. We played together end of last season. He was looking good. He had to overcome an injury. You've overcame an injury. I feel like there's parallels in your guys' stories. You've had your breakthrough. You've now you're reaching new mountaintops, and we'll get to what's next. I know you have goals. We may not want to spill all the goals. I understand how it is. You got to keep them close to your chest before that happen, but we can talk about that mindset. So my boy Markelle, and I think, you know, the Orlando fan base, they'll appreciate it. The Seattle fan base, the Washington fan base will appreciate it. Like, he is in a moment right now where he's going through that, like, those dark stages. And I think he'll appreciate me and wouldn't mind me talking about it. Like, and he's going to get to a point, I already know, I see it. And whether he sees it or not, I believe he sees it too, where he's going to break through. And everyone who was doubting him, talking crazy about him, is going to have to answer to what they said. I know that for him. So, like, talk through your experience with him. He was young. He was a freshman, right?
Yes.
So talk about Kel. Give him some love.
Oh, man, that's my guy. It's actually really cool. I saw him for the first time in years. We played at DC, and he was sitting on the baseline. And he texted me during the game, but I didn't get it, obviously. And I remember, like, the game was over, and I kind of looked over and I saw him. I'm like, what? Like, I walked over, gave him a big hug, met his girl, met his kids. He's got kids. It's crazy. But I remember he came in as a freshman. I had heard a lot about him. I was going to be a senior, and they had like 9 people, and they're like, "Hey, KP, we need one for pickup." I was like, "Okay, great." And so I remember coming in, and he comes in, and he's got such a feel. He's so fluid, just instinctual, just knows how to play the game. I've never played on court with anyone that's played like that. Like, I was kind of in awe, to be honest. He was just controlling the tempo, dictating, finding people, getting to the rack, like setting people up. And this was him at 17 playing with, I mean, pretty much everyone on the court was pros. And good pros too. Like, IT was still in the league. Spencer Hawes, Jamal Crawford, like Terrence. These were like pros, you know? And Markelle was head and shoulders the best person on the court. And it was so cool because it was really cool. I feel like God kind of put us together that year. Because we just were kind of like locked in. Like, as our seasons grew, everyone started to see that, you know, we were both going to be like top picks and stuff. And so I think we shared a lot of, like, just kind of, we knew what each other was going through. Yeah. It was cool to have someone there that just kind of understood you and kind of put your arm around you. It was like, man, like, I got you. I'm rocking with you. Good game, bad game, doesn't matter. I remember the day he got drafted. He called me. I was at home. He called me. He's like, "Where you at?" I was like, "I'm just at home." He's like, "Come outside." I walk outside, and he pulled up in a brand new all black matte G-Wagon. And I was like, "Bro, like, what?" Because, like, that's like my favorite car. Yeah. He's like, "Drive," and you just threw me the keys. And we got in. We were just riding around. Like, I was like, "Yo, we made it!" Like, it's lit.
That's so tough.
No, it was tough. But that's just the kind of heart he has. Like, he just remembers things. He cares about people. He's a great teammate. He's a great human. And, you know, it's so interesting because I've been in that spot where, like, all these people are chiming in about how much of a failure you are, how, you know, you haven't lived up to expectations. What a waste. How do we pay you? This and that. And I learned, like, we don't get our value from that. We get our value from God and the people that we love around us. And so I know I'm with you 100%. It's just a matter of time for him. It's only a matter of time before he breaks through, and he will. No doubt in my mind.
How did nah, that's tough. I believe it. Like I know wholeheartedly. I have no doubt in my mind.
Yep.
And I'm excited. I'm working my tail off so that I can be on the court knocking down shots next to him. And we have a young group. We haven't had success as a team, you know, in recent history, at least not since I've been here. I don't know if that was what it was like for you at all. I mean, if you're gonna have a number one pick, the team was probably not great. So like, let's kind of like transition a little bit into that. You know, we've talked about your family, their impact, you know, people around you and how, you know, their nourishment has, you know, propelled you. What was it like on the San Antonio leading into the transition to Vegas, like that core group that you had? I mean, what were you guys dogs then? Like, did you have that mentality to win? Obviously, you know, and we can talk about Becky Hammond even too. We just played in San Antonio yesterday. Her jersey's in the wrap. Like, she is the GOAT. Right. So like, just talk through that experience a little bit. I want to see if there's any like parallels with Orlando at all.
Oh yeah. I mean, listen, when I got drafted to San Antonio, my first year, we won 8 games. We won 8 games and we were dead last. No, Dawg meant like it was like surviving and fixing. Like that was the mentality, or like, let's just get by, or let's keep it close. And if we won, we're celebrating, like, you know, and of course, like inside, I'm like, this feels so wrong. Like, we're celebrating because we finally won a game, you know? I think that it took years. You know, my next year, they moved the franchise to Vegas, and then drafted Asia. And even then, we made the playoffs. We were still short. And then the following year, we drafted Jackie, and again went to the playoffs, lost to DC, and then of course I tore my Achilles after that. But I think every year we got better, and we kept that core group. And I always remember we would come together after a season, and just everyone was on the same page about like doing their due diligence in the off season, because everyone else needs to get better individually for us to be better as a team. So I think hunger, and we were young, just like you guys. We were a young group, and everyone made sacrifices in the off season to like, hey, this is not time to go on vacation. And like, obviously like you rest or whatever, but when you're ready, you come back and you grow as a player. And there was not one player that came back not better than they were the year before. And I think that meant a lot to, you know, what was building. And it took years. I mean, this was year 5 for me, but yeah, I think that that mentality and that competitive growth as a team just kept growing. And this year, I will say, like, starting training camp was the most competitive group I've ever been a part of. I mean, people are cussing each other out. Every time someone wins a drill, loses a drill, like keeping score for everything. Like if we get a tie, Becky's like, all right, next drill. We're like, nah, fuck that. We're doing it again. Like it matters. And it matters. Like we're on the line, like running, doing sprints, like trying to win everything. And I think that competitiveness carries over into everything. And so like, you know, there's 2 minutes left in a game. It's tied up. We're getting to stop. Hey, y'all, we're getting to stop. And I know that everyone on the court with me has that same mentality because we've built those habits throughout the season. So I would say, long story short, to answer your question, it wasn't like that overnight, but throughout the years, it's grown.
Noted.
And by the way, you can be the trigger. And by the way, people thought I was crazy, which was, I accepted that. I was like, I can be the bad guy. Like I can be crazy. But yeah, I was on people's ass. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're getting fat. Let's go. Like, why are you running? Why are you jogging? Like, and I didn't care if people didn't like me in the moment. I knew they were going to love me when we won. And so I think that, but if to do that, you got to be on your P's and Q's. Like, you got to be winning everything, like, locked in shape, like no one can tell you nothing. And so I think that mentality, and we had other people like Chelsea Gray was on me as much as I was on her, you know, and Jackie and Asia, like there's that accountability no one was afraid to tell anyone to like get it together. And I think that was really cool. Like egos were put to the side, because if we want to win, I need you to be on me like I'm on you.
Y'all did it. Y'all really did it, man. That shit was fun to watch. That's all I'm gonna say. It was fun to watch.
Thank you.
Yeah, accountability is definitely everything.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of looking at like the entire, I guess, San Antonio / Vegas experience, you know, the Achilles, which we've talked about, the Achilles tendon injury, obviously a big turning point for you personally, not just professionally. But what's that experience like when it happens in the middle of a COVID outbreak? In the middle, you know, like you can't go to a doctor's office, you know, you can't go to rehab in person. You don't get like one-on-one time to build a relationship with physicians and really get a good idea of like how you're doing, how you're healing. You know, what was that experience like?
Yeah. When I tore it, I was in Portland, and fortunately, someone knew the Trailblazers doctor. So when I tore it, I went to his office. They had a machine, MRI machine. They got MRI, and he saw me and knew pretty much right away it was torn. And then fortunately, again, like this is all God. Again, you're right. COVID outbreak, people can't get in. Elatrosh, the guy in LA that did my Achilles, he happened to have like an open slot next Tuesday for Achilles surgery. I was like, great, I'll take it. Yeah, like it was just one of those things where it was like God was like almost like had his hand on me and was just like, I got it. Like, we're gonna be good. And so I had like the best care. And then I came back to Vegas, and UFC was probably the only institution in the country that was open during COVID. Again, another God thing. Like,
yeah, he works in mysterious ways.
Really does. And so I was in there with all the fighters, and I was rehabbing my Achilles, and it was just like, and it's crazy too, because like now I hear stories about people that, you know, had an injury during COVID and they couldn't get into a rehab facility. Like one of my boys tore his Achilles and he just couldn't go to PT because he couldn't get in. And so I just like, man, it was just like God looking out. And I mean, my journey back, like I had so many things go right, and I know that's not coincidence. You know what I mean?
Let's I want to kind of talk about Susan, the athlete, and her husband. What's her husband's name?
Curtis.
Yeah, the GOATs. I've seen their work through you, through Katie Lou, obviously, through Sue. Let's just talk about her and him, their package that they have. I mean, I'm also not trying to, you know, give away the keys to the, you know what I'm saying? Like how we get the engine going, but just like you talk about being in the best shape. You talk about self-writing things down. Like I've seen people who have her workouts, for instance, and it's like, okay, here's the workout for the day. And then they say, well, there's that. And then there's how Kelsey does it. And it's like, you are full to the max. I'm doing everything, pull workout, I'm there. Like, and I've seen this kind of, you know, being in the WNBA scene a little bit, obviously. So like, just talk about her and her influence and coming back and just feeling your best. Cause right now I feel at my best. This was my biggest summer. I had a chef, was locked in with workouts. And I can see in the first two I played 10 minutes. And there's not a lot of opportunity. And I feel like I've maximized to what I can in those minutes so far. And it's like, I'm not even worried about the game itself because I put all the work in the off season. I'm still, on top of my body. So just talk about her, that process, and just like how that unlocks a new element to your game, especially post injury.
Well, I would tell you like I don't shy away from talking about Susan because like you said, like, I don't want to give away the keys, but like you can hand someone keys, don't mean that it can open the door. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So like, Susan is one of one. So Susan is you could call her like strength and conditioning coach, but really like she runs my life. She basically specializes in performance, like peak performance. So when you want to be performing your best, and she's absolutely unbelievable. And it's not just like, oh, like here's your lift. I mean, it's built out, like you've seen it. you got Pilates in the morning, and everyone's different. And that's something I love about Susan is like my program is different from Lou's. That's different from Sue's. Like everyone needs something different. Everyone has different strengths and weaknesses. And then also too, she works with Ashley, and Ashley's a dietitian geneticist. So what they do is they take your blood, run your genetics, and basically see what your strengths and weaknesses are. For example, for mine is cardiovascular. So like, I think I'm in the 99 percentile of like ability to like lung strength, lung capacity. So what does that mean? That means most of my workouts are tailored to being able to like make that strength something that is an advantage when I play. So a lot of swim workouts, a lot of Peloton workouts. A lot of my lifts are like high intensity med ball, ropes, like very quick type things, because that's something that is a strength. For example, a weakness, like I can put on muscle fast, but I lose it just as fast. So I have to lift a lot and consistently to be able to keep muscle on, just like things like that. But those details are, they're critical. So Susan plans my program based on my strengths and my weaknesses. And there's a workout and then there's a Susan workout, as you have seen. And I feel like I'm in the best shape of my life. And I feel like, as a player, when you go out there, I'm not thinking about breathing or how tired I am. I'm locked into the game, and I'm thinking about, making plays and, the other team, what they're doing, what we're doing. And so I think that having that high level of strength and like, being in that type of shape is a big advantage, because going into the fourth quarter, you got your legs, you're able to hit shots, you're able to make better decisions, you're able to get stops. Like, I just think it's like something that takes me over the edge.
Yeah. I first was introduced. This is when Katie Lou was in Seattle. We're having dinner. It's me, Lou, Stewie, Marta, and Sue. And first off, for me, I'm like, geez. And I think Rapinoe, she wasn't there. I'm like, I'm in the presence of, queens. You know what I'm saying? Like literally, like this is amazing. But I asked Sue, I was like, yo, like you're clearly the GOAT, like respect, whatever. I was actually extremely nervous first time I met her. But I was like, if you can give me any advice, and I'm going through my ankle injury all from Seattle. I was doing all my rehab up there. And so I was like, if you give me any advice, they put me in contact with like a PT up there. I was like, I've been in and out of the league. Like I'm trying to stick. Like, I'm still thinking 10 years down the road though. I'm not like so worried about, am I going to be on a team? Am I not? I'm like, okay, right. I'm going to do the work. I'm going to get back and, to put myself in a position to get an opportunity. But when I get it, how do I put myself in the best opportunity to maintain? Because once I'm here, I already know the sky's the limit. I've got goals written down that are going to come true here in the next 2-3 years that people are going to be like, Devin Cannady?
Yeah.
The guy from the G League, the guy on draft, like, no, it's going to happen. Time just needs to catch up. So Sue was just like, I've worked with Susan and did the whole spiel that you gave. And she just, was it 20 years that she just had? She had her last season. Like, Sue left the game, in my opinion. You talk about peak performance, like at her peak. Like she didn't peak. Like Sue just kept getting better. And she left ascending, which is amazing. She's a GOAT. So that's my first time, understanding what Susan did. So it's super dope. I kind of want to talk about like you and Sue. And I think there was this moment in the past, I think they said on ESPN, like you looked up to Sue and were like, hey, I'm going to be in the WNBA with you someday or something like that. Like, is there a story like that? And what was it like going against her in like her final kind of playoff run, her final game?
Yeah. So I did when I was I think I was 13 or 14. I was a freshman in high school, and we were at some tournament, the Nike TOC. It was in Arizona, and Sue was the guest speaker. And I remember, obviously, like, I know who she is. I've watched tape. I've watched her. Like, I know, and she spoke, and then they took her out this back door, and she was left. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go meet her. So I took off the other way, kind of, dirty, classic. And I ran her down. And I was like, now looking back, I'm like, dude, you're crazy. But I ran her down and I'm like, yo, like, so. And she turned around. I said, hey, I just want to let you know, my name is Kelsey Plum. I just want to let you know I'm going to be like you someday. And she looked at me and she was like, I bet you are. Like, best of luck. And I was like, okay. And here we like, am I? It was so funny because, like, you know, for me, I think I had that moment when I first got to the league, like when I first played her. I just was like in complete awe, you know. But now I feel like this year, I was like, nah, like I'm not in awe. I'm like obviously all respect and everything, but like I'm here to win. So I don't really give a damn. Like I was so annoying in that whole series. She probably hates me right now, but like I was fouling her and holding her and pushing her and just being really annoying because I knew, like, you know, if you're going to break Seattle's rhythm, you have to be able to put pressure on the ball. So if they're going to put me on Sue, I'm just going to do everything I can to just disrupt. And so I think I did pretty good. But it was kind of a full circle moment because, you know, she just meant so much to me in my life. And that's just someone that's just such a great example, more than a basketball player too. Like, you know how cool she is as a human, down to always took the time to just, you know, hang with me and talk to me. So she's meant a lot to me.
That's great. Even in that moment, like to your point, like the way you painted that picture, having interacted with Sue, knowing Sue, like I can see you're like really being present, really looking at 14-year-old Kelsey Plum. It's like, I bet you are. Like, and like, not like condescending, but like genuinely like I wish you the best. And look, here you are picking her up full court, ending we're unfortunate. It was bittersweet because y'all were hooping. She always hit that shot in the corner, and I was like, yo, let's go, Sue. And then Becky draws up a play, and it's like, damn, Vegas is on one. So that's super dope, and it's really like the passing of the torch. Like from the guard point of view, like you're not next up, you're now, you know, like, and it's super dope. I'm very happy to see your success. Like I'm happy for you. You know, you're about all the right things. Sue was about all the right things, and I think the game. I don't call, like like women's basketball, like basketball is in a good place on the women's side, thanks to you. So super special to watch and be a part of in a small way, you know.
Thank you.
One quick question I had going back to the Susan thing, like how did she play a role in you coming back for Team USA, qualifying for 3-on-3?
Oh man, I mean, Susan was crucial. So what people don't know about 3-on-3 was, well, one, it's outside, and two, in Tokyo is like 90 degrees, 90% humidity. And so we had to like train for that. But obviously Tokyo was in the middle of WNBA season. So again, this is like crazy. But after games, I would do like these Peloton workouts, either like in a sauna or outside in Vegas or in my garage. So it was probably like 120. After a game, and I'm doing a hit workout because 3-on-3, like that's a different level of cardio. And I think that, again, you had to heat train for it, you know? So that was brutal. And that was all Susan. And I don't miss those times. I don't miss those times at all, but definitely got me ready for it. And, you know, winning gold, it was all worth it. I tell people now I'm 100% retired from 3-on-3. Completely retired, but it was a great time for me to develop a lot of things. But Susan was instrumental in preparing my body for that event.
Yeah, I mean, like 3-on-3 is like it might as well be like Greco-Roman wrestling because like bodies are just colliding. Like nobody's calling shit. Like you have to be in pain every day.
So much pain. 3-on-3 is like snorting bath salts and then basketball. That's what it's like. Like it's just 10 minutes of cocaine and basketball. Like that's what it feels like. You're just like go like nonstop to the wall, and you can't make any mistakes because like it's the first to 21. So like if someone gets hot, game's over. You know, there's a lot more room for air in a 40-minute game instead of a 10-minute game, and so that was that was tough. That was a tough stretch, but hey, we made it out, and it was really cool.
How do you compare like the physicality of 3-on-3 to like Turkey? Because like your overseas hoops is like we just had somebody on and we talked about, FIBA. Obviously we know how much more physical it is, we know how different it is, but how do you compare 3-on-3 to like Fenerbahce or Galatasaray or like the Turkish league in general?
Yeah, I would say 3-on-3 is the most physical. I feel like they sometimes it's annoying, to be honest. Like, I'm just going to be super real. People aren't that good at basketball, but they're super physical. So they like, fuck the game up and they just try to like take you out. And the refs, I think I shot 2 free throws all the Olympics. Like,
Wow.
just nothing. And so I think also too, it helps you mentally because like, you're not going to get a call. So like you need to embrace being hit back, and then you just need to finish. Like it's not an and one, it's just a layup and it is what it is. So I think that FIBA is very physical. Overseas is more physical than the W, but 3-on-3 takes the cake.
Not even close.
Not even close.
The as far as Turkey goes, though, like Fenerbahce, Galatasaray, I know you've been a little vocal about like the difference culturally, but which one was a better experience?
Ooh, my experience at Gala, so much better. I think that it was a combination of some things, but one, because I was a better human in person, so I feel like experience would have been better. That helped a lot. I think that as a young player going to play for a club like Fener, I wasn't ready for the amount of pressure and psychologically like what they expect from you and they put on you. I mean, one day you win a game for them, you're an angel. The next day you lose it, you're the devil. And there's no in between, and I get it. They're paying you a lot of money, so you got to perform. But as a young player going over there, like I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready. But it was really good for me. It was really good for me to basically learn how to play without pleasing people, and it helped my game a ton, playing overseas. Like you have to develop other areas of your game because, there's no off the defensive 3 seconds in the paint. People can sit in the paint. You got to use pick and roll better. Like you said, it's more physical. So you're not getting foul calls. The game is a little bit slower, so you got to execute more in the half court. So, I mean, there's just a lot of things that you can grow at, playing overseas. But, I don't want to say I loved my experiences, but I'm grateful for them because it made me into a better player.
You plan to go back this offseason or are you going
Hell.
Is it over? Is it over for that?
I don't want to say it's over for good, but it's over for this year. Like I went so hard this year. I definitely I need to like reset. You know what I mean?
No, that's tough. I think it's important. Also, I just think it's very unfortunate that, women's basketball players have to pick and choose and say, financially this, situationally that, opportunity. There's 12 teams, 144 spots, realistically less than that because of the salary cap. So it's like, they're just not opportunities. And, from a personal life perspective, I mean, you're making extreme sacrifices to continue to do something you love, right? So that in general, I mean, we can have a heated conversation about that at another time. But specifically, and let's kind of like bring it home and hit home on a big reason why one of our sisters is detained at the moment, right? Is because of the mechanism at play. So like, I mean, to your experience, just being overseas, like obviously we pray for BG, there's the art, you talk about being at a low point. Like I can't imagine what she's going through. It's sickening. It's sad. I mean, is there anything you want to say to that? Any solutions maybe we can find like in the future, just for women's basketball in general? I think you are one of the face of the W. So like, as we move forward, do you envision anything that the W can and will do, whether it's expansion, like create opportunities so that we don't have to have, you guys go overseas and make that decision?
Oh, wow.
That's pretty deep. It's pretty deep.
Yeah, no, I don't think I'll be able to answer it in full at the time, but I will say, my heart goes out to BG and her family, and just tragic, and just praying like you are that she can come home. I know her appeal is coming up, so I'm praying for good news in that. As far as the W, I feel like we don't make smart decisions that benefit the players. And moving forward, I definitely feel like I can be more vocal as to, decisions that the league makes. For example, the new TV deal that they signed, we got robbed. And again, none of the players see that revenue or money. And I feel like there's so many things, like we talk about expansion. I understand that's on the table. I also feel very strongly that the league needs to do a better job of taking care of the current players it has in terms of player safety, in terms of travel, in terms of medical care. The league has stupid rules. Anything from capping the amount of people, like support staff that can travel. So you have trainers carrying bags, and you have people that are front office people checking in for flights because, we're not allowed to have extra, just like stupid stuff like, or like, not having security when we travel. So, random people coming up to you in the airport and grabbing you and this and that, because the league doesn't allow that. Like, there's so many little things that I feel like if we were to ask the players, because I don't feel like the input is taken very well, that if we were to ask the players just a quality of life to be better, we could do a lot of things. I know expansion is coming, and I understand why, but I really, truly feel like let's make it better for the network that's in it right now. But again, we have people in the front office that have never played a day in their life, so they don't understand that flying on a red eye and then playing Connecticut the next day is a thing that we don't understand that.
I agree with a lot of those points. I think that's valid. I'm a byproduct. I'm seeing, on the back end, what's this doing to someone's mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, all these things. Yeah, you're supposed to go out there, perform. You're all brands. You're very well-known people. And I'm sitting in a luxurious hotel right now, playing a back-to-back. We just started, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's hard to compare the NBA and the WNBA just apples to apples. But at the end of the day, I think if there's a baseline of just care, support, taking care of like the basic necessities, you hit it all on the head. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I'm invested clearly in the W. Obviously, my fiance, my future wife, the future mother of my kids, we're gonna, we wish her the best. Obviously, I'm locked in, but just in general, the game of basketball, I love it so much. I've loved the WNBA for however long. I went to Indiana Fever games when I was like in high school. So like, it's a real thing. And the league is growing, but to your point, you hit a lot of things on the head. I think, to kind of sum it up for her, I think we've touched on a lot, obviously, from your upbringing to Washington, the highs and lows along the journey. I will make a brief comment about the 3-on-3 point of this conversation. This is the only time I will allow myself to actually have good things to say. Obviously, congratulations on the gold. Other than that experience was very traumatic for me and mine. So the one thing I'll take away for this, the purpose of our relationship, this conversation, I remember you guys were doing a workout. I think we were all in the pool. And you were like, are we going to the All-Star game? You were like, fuck no. I'm not going to that All-Star game because I should be an All-Star. And guess what? I'm going to go and get this gold. I'm going to be done with 3-on-3. And you're speaking these things out loud into the air, into existence for me, for Katie Lou to hear. And you're like, you're on 10. You're like, I'm done with 3. Like, I'm going to go get the gold in 3-on-3. I'm going to be in the All-Star game next year. And this is going to happen. I remember that conversation. I said, KP, go make it happen then. And then fast forward probably, I don't even know, 8 months, maybe a year, and the All-Star game MVP. And the All-Star game MVP goes to. And I sent you a text that night. I was like, yo, like, you're different. You're special. Like, you said that in that moment. And I'm sure it was like, you said out of frustration, out of motivation, but like there has to be so much to a human being that can have a vision, have a commitment in their heart, and say something, write something down, and make it happen. And so this is the portion of the episode to wrap up. Talk about, you did it as a kid, you're doing it now. We've clearly seen you writing things down. Like talk about that mentality a little bit more. Talk about the significance of writing things down. I wish I had the picture pulled up of what you wrote down. I thought it was special that it wasn't just goals or the day of the week and it was champion. That was at the end of the sheet. And I do the same exact thing. So I think I kind of know where it's coming from. But you wrote the intentional side of things. You wrote the personal side of things. Play with passion and joy. Be present. You wrote these things that you can control. And everything that you can't control is at the bottom of the list. But guess what? They still happen. Please just talk about it. I'm getting chills thinking about it. I think it's so valuable. I think if anyone can take anything from this whole episode, is listen to what you're about to say. So take the floor.
First of all, thank you. I feel like you see me, so thank you. But yeah, I mean, I would start off with literally what you just said of like the personal things at the top were the most important to me because I knew that if I was 100% locked in on, having joy, being a dog, being present, that everything else is going to follow. And I made a decision, and this wasn't like, I want to be clear too, like I wrote those things down at the end of last season. So the whole off season, that was at the forefront of my mind. Like with every decision that you make in the off season, it's like, what am I doing? Is that helping these things or hurting these things? And if it's hurting, like I gotta pivot, And so I feel like being very intentional in every workout, like, am I present? Am I bringing joy? Am I a dog? Like every pool workout, every meal, you know what I'm saying? Like, am I going to bed at what time I need to go to bed? Am I napping when I need to nap? Like all these things add up. And so I knew like I'm capable of being, an all-star, all WNBA player, a world champion, a champion. But in order to do those things, I need to do these things as a human in every asset of life. And so I felt like it was cool to like show the world what I had been working on for the past year. But I would say I didn't just, and like you don't just write them and do them. You've been intentional about how you go about them. And so I think that's the biggest part. And you win the small battles to win the war, And so I think that every single day when you step into whatever you're doing, it doesn't have to be basketball. It can be school. It can be piano. It doesn't matter. But are you doing the things like on a diligent basis to get to where you need to go? And so, I have goals for this next year. Obviously I'm going to take some time. I'm going on vacation. I'm going to come back. I'm going to write those down. I know exactly what I'm doing, and I'm going to go at it again like I did before. And it's exciting. And you know what? It's crazy. I might not get them. It might take me 3 years to get them. I'm going to get them eventually, but I think that, being patient with yourself and things like that. But I think we know scientifically the brain works. Like you said, if I'm speaking it and if I'm seeing it and if I'm writing it down, that gives me a way better chance of completing it. And so, every day I'm looking at those things.
Well, first of all, enjoy your vacation, well deserved.
Thank you.
But one of my favorite things that I think I've ever heard you say, you said two things. One of them was funny, and the other one, both of them were like you were being very like honest and vulnerable. One of them was, I don't want to be remembered for the points that I score, and I think you said that when you were in college. And then the other one was, at one point you felt like you were more recognized for throwing a T-shirt at like halftime at a Spurs game, which, the way you said it was very funny, but like, you were being very, very genuine. Well, the second is not true. But in general, what do you want to be remembered by? How do you want to be remembered? What kind of impact do you want to leave for the rest of your career and then beyond the career?
a big question. To be honest with you, I'm working on it. I don't think I have like a full-on answer for you. I think that I would currently want to be known as a dog, someone that brings a level of joy and passion to whatever they're doing. And I hope that that's infectious, like that spirit. You know, I hope that when I leave a room or I walk into a room, people feel my impact in terms of like, man, I want to go get it, you know? And so I think something that I'm truly passionate about. But also, you know, I feel like making people better. And I've learned that along the way, like you're not going to do it by yourself. And so how can you make people better? And I think that as a player, that's just a continued area of growth for me. And so I would say those two things stick out, but I don't think I have like a clear cut, like mantra I could give you right now, because it's always evolving.
No, that's probably the best answer because that's the most real answer.
That's one thing about you. You keep it a buck. I mean, you're very authentic. The way you play. This one thing. It's crazy. The story. I mean, you kind of know the story with me and Katie Lou. Like our first kind of not even an interaction, but when I was like, all right, you talk about manifesting. I said, that's gonna be my wife. And I was sitting courtside at her game. She didn't know me. I clearly knew of her. You know, legend and UConn, whatever. But I'm sitting in Chicago. She's with this guy. I look at the depth chart. I'm like, Katie Lou Samuelson. Oh, word. And I was waiting for her to get in. She didn't get into the third quarter. When she did check in, she runs right by me, and I'm locked in. Right? She takes a shot, misses, gets a rebound, knocks it down, boom. And I'm like, yep, go DM or whatever the case may be. But you talk about like just being like authentic, being yourself. Like that's something that you continue to do. And I think it's important, it's impactful for everyone who's watching your every move and like being honest about in the good times and the success and being honest and vulnerable during the bad times, because that's humanity, that's life. And people relate to people who are authentic, right? And so I think to kind of sum everything up, I appreciate your story. I appreciate you being honest, appreciate you being here and being present, being a dog. But to sum up the Run Your Own Race pod, to sum up what I've been creating with the Run Your Own Race, I want to hear in your own words. And when you see that, and when you hear that phrase being on this podcast, let me hear what Run Your Own Race means in your own words.
Run your own race to me means be you. No one else can be you. God made you uniquely and wonderfully you. And so, when I know a lot of times we want to compare our lives to people, good and bad, and performances and, whatever it may be, you got to be confident and strong in the faith within yourself. And so I think that Run Your Own Race is just a beautiful way of saying to be super confident about being you.
There we have it. We do. Roll the outro music. Thank you, KP.
Peace.